K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period. This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to make a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you might be. I am Rick Robinson. This is America Off the Rails, and it is 6:10 on Tuesday, January the 13th. And at this point in time, do have a special announcement. Sorry, I know I'm a little bit later than usual. We usually try to start the show by about 5 minutes after, mainly because at some point when we get to the whole idea of 24-hour streaming, we know there's going to be some time when there's going to be commercials in the way, give us a little bit of prep time, so I'm starting to try to get used to that schedule now. But my delay actually was in responding to an email. Apparently, I have been added to a directory of the top conservative talk show hosts in the country. I'm not sure how many other folks are on there with me, but when I was invited to submit my information, because there are a group of folks that I've been working with that really enjoy the show that I put together, they basically reached out to me and told me about this directory and invited me to submit my info. And today did receive the confirmation email that I have been added. So yours truly is now a part of a talk show host of some of the top conservative talk show hosts in the country, which puts me on a website with folks like Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, and a few others. So, good times. Not quite sure who was dropped on their heads, but yeah. And yes, guys, if you haven't listened to me before, self-deprecation is my thing. It's just how I roll. Also, it's one of those things that helps me keep pushing even harder, because if I ever start acknowledging the fact that I'm pretty good at this kind of stuff, I start getting lazy. So the harder I am on myself about it, and the more I beat myself up about it, the more I keep striving to make sure that you guys get the best content possible. That works whether it's a show that I'm hosting or behind the scenes. I'm always harder on myself than anybody else could ever possibly be, even so much to the point where I made a joke because they wanted a picture of me, and I'm like, well, you can put it up there if you don't think it's going to break the internet. There's a reason I do radio. Just throwing that out there. But that is some pretty exciting news for us. For this evening, we will not be taking callers. I'm still working on trying to track down a technical issue. From the looks of the levels and everything that I'm seeing from here, I think we might have finally got it figured out, but I do need to listen to the final product. For this evening, we'll be running up until probably a few minutes after 7. In the event that Denny is available, he's had a bit of a family emergency, so I don't know if he's going to be available. If he is, we will roll right straight into Wake Up America, and then at the end of that show, you will hear The Right War with Liz and Taylor, and then, of course, we will go right into the Liz Harrison radio show, and at that point in time, we will turn things over to the late night crew, starting with probably a replay of one of the Open Eyes with Ira, and then Late Night in the Midlands from midnight to 3. In the event that Arnie is unable to appear, since up until this new format we've been doing 2-hour shows, I'll probably just let my show replay on the server until 8 o'clock when the new one drops. So, lots of stuff to talk about. Title of the show for America Off the Rails today is Fighting Terror and Islamophobia. The subtitle, which you can't see, especially if you are joining us through TuneIn, is There a Difference? And I'm here to tell you, yes, there is. Because just because we're pointing out that there are all these crazy people that are themselves professing to be Muslim, who want to basically take over the world. I mean, we're talking Pinky in the Brain style here, folks. Plain and simple. I mean, I may joke about it because, you know, my ultimate goal at some point is to build a conservative radio empire spanning the entire country, much less possibly the globe. And I may joke about that, and it may be something that either I find a way to make happen or I don't. But these people want to dominate the earth. They want to dominate the earth because they think it's the way to bring about the end times and to usher in their 1,000 years of peace. Let that sink in for a second, because these folks will not be happy until the world is bathed in blood. And for all of you folks that keep talking about how we don't know how many of these people that are already in our country are peaceful, I'm here to tell you it's time to start paying attention. Plain and simple. It's time to start paying attention. Here in just a second, I'm going to run a clip. And this happened in Boston. Actually, you know what? While we're at it, let's go ahead and just run it now. This is from a while ago. I've actually played this clip before, but it fits in pretty well with what we're talking about right now, and it does illustrate the exact point I'm trying to make.
Religious men burned a 12-year-old alive. They're not even here. Ignore them. They're not here, and they're not there. And they will not be there. They'll be back to the sea. And this time, Moses is not going to be here to open the sea. You better learn how to swim. Allahu Akbar! 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 Allahu.
Alright, so did you hear that? You know, it's actually attached to a video. You've probably seen it on YouTube. If not, you may want to go look it up. This was not in Syria. This was not in Iraq. This was not in Saudi Arabia. This was in Boston. This was a group of people that were protesting the fact that, and this was back when the Palestinian-Israeli conflict had flared up again, and like the peaceful Muslims they are, they started saying that they were going to basically push the Israelis back into the sea and they'd better learn how to swim. And then they started, of course, chanting, God is great. Sound pretty peaceful to me. About to you. Do they sound peaceful to you? I mean, when are we going to realize that we cannot keep falling into this political correctness cycle? We can't spend the rest of our lives being politically correct when there is an entire segment of the Muslim population that wants to wipe everyone who isn't a Muslim off of the face of the earth. At some point, I'm hoping that the moderate Muslims, can't see the air quotes because it's radio, but I'm hoping that the moderate Muslims will wake up and realize that in their eyes, you aren't Muslim either. So, what do? Do we keep cowering in a corner? Do we keep saying, well, Islam is a religion of peace? Do we keep having leaders like President Barack Obama who blatantly has been recorded saying that the future cannot belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam? Do we have a president who not only basically just, let's look at a parallel. Sorry, I'm kind of going in about 14 different directions. But let's look at a parallel for just a second. The entire time he was in the Illinois state legislature, he basically voted present. Flash forward to a Benghazi situation, he basically voted present. Flash forward to the Paris situation, he didn't even vote present. Who did we send? What was it? Some little low-ranking ambassador? I mean, hell, it might as well have been nobody. I know yesterday I said nobody, but apparently I did find out that I was incorrect there. We did actually bother to send somebody, but it might as well have been a nobody. So again, I ask you, why is it suddenly not okay to look at the folks that want us dead and start trying to figure out who they are? When in the world did this not become okay for us to protect ourselves? I mean, look at what's going on in the news. There was another story that I meant to bring up a few days ago. I never even got around to it because everything that was going on with Paris. There was recently a VA shooting in El Paso. Got a clip about that we may play at some point during this show. But why is it all of a sudden, if you are interested in trying to not only fight terror, but make sure that your country remains safe, you must be an Islamophobic racist? I don't know about any of you, but I'm not saying that Muslims need to be put in an internment camp, and I'm not saying that they basically need to be locked up. What I'm saying is, we have the capability to monitor the ones that we know are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. It's not that difficult. We know they're here. We know that there are people here that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and we have the capability to monitor them. And yet we choose not to because we might be found guilty of something called racial profiling. How is it racial profiling when what you're honestly doing is monitoring the behaviors of people that do things that are illegal? It doesn't matter what color their skin is. You're not monitoring them because of the color of their skin. You're monitoring them because they have behaviors that make them look like they're doing things that are illegal. I mean, can we just get real for a moment? If you're walking around somewhere out in public with your pants hanging down around your ankles, I don't care if you're white, brown, purple, green, polka dotted, if you've got your pants down around your ankles and I'm wearing a badge and a gun, I'm probably going to stop you and try to find out what it is that you're up to. Why? Because that was a behavior that started being modeled in prison. A lot of folks don't know that. But that was a behavior that started being modeled in prison. What did it signify? It meant that someone was available. And yet now we have all of these thug wannabes, whether they're white, black, brown, purple, or polka dotted, running around the world with their pants sagging around their ankles and a long t-shirt tucked in, and sometimes they don't even manage to do that, so you get to see their boxers or whatever they have on underneath it. So yeah, I'm sorry, last I checked, that is against the law. It's called indecent exposure. Nobody needs to see your underwear in public. I don't give a damn who you are. So why? Because we are trying to enforce a law which is on the books, are we suddenly going to be accused of profiling? Same thing happens with everything else that's going on right now. There are plenty of ways to track the folks that are doing things in this country that we know that they shouldn't be doing, but we can't do it because, God forbid, somebody says we're racially profiling. If it saves a life, I don't care. I would profile the entire nation if we could save one person. Let's just be honest. Human lives matter. I mean, I just don't understand it anymore. I mean, that's like this whole thing with the Je suis Charlie thing. I mean, hats off to them. I don't know if you've heard about this, but apparently they are running a cartoon of Muhammad again, and they are either tripling or quadrupling their normal production amount and putting it out in, I believe, 16 different languages. So hats off to you guys, because I gotta say, even over here at this point, I'm pretty sure somebody would have been cowering in a corner going, we shouldn't be doing anything to annoy these terrorists anymore. Look what happened. We should start monitoring what goes in our papers better. Is it sad that, we're usually the first country to make fun of France when it comes to things like freedom and standing up for themselves, and yet they're making us look like a bunch of cowards right now? Somebody really should stop and think about that for a second. Just let that sink in. Has it sunk in? So I gotta tell you, I'm a little freaked out about all of that. Just saying. So, I mean, again, what are we going to do? Are we just going to sit around, do nothing, and wait for these people to kill us? Is that what we're supposed to do? Because I got to tell you, that's kind of the expectation that it seems like everybody has anymore, is that's what they want us to do, is to sit around and do nothing. I mean, why should we sit around and do nothing when we know that people want to kill us? Why? I mean, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest for just a moment. Again, somebody else says what I'm about to say a lot better than I do. So let's go ahead and let this clip play, because this is kind of where I am again, and this is directed to all you peaceful majority folks. And this goes for everybody. I'm not even just talking about the Muslims at this point. If you're basically in the go-along to get along crowd, and you're just sitting around wringing your hands saying we shouldn't rock the boat, and these folks in Paris, they're doing the wrong thing, we shouldn't be rocking the boat, I have a message for you, and I'm just going to let this person say it.
Assalamualaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University. I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25% according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radical 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative... Save the applause till the end. Thank you. Thank you. And since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room, and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and stop calling it fair.
Alright, so yeah, I have to agree. It's time to take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs, because we don't need political correctness in this world. What we need is the ability for people to think on their own. What we need is the ability for people to be able to reach their own conclusions without being told that they're hate mongers or fear mongers. And I'm not saying we should round up every single Muslims on the street. Let's use a little bit of common sense. Let's make sure that people are doing things that we know are wrong before we do anything stupid. Because like I said, you're able to tell. I mean, you really can. There are ways to tell when people are doing things that are bad. That's why police officers go through a lot of the training that they go through. And honestly, in this day and age, there are lots of places where you can get similar training. You can go pay a couple $100 and go through a course that runs you through how to do traffic stops, all of the things that teach officers some of the situational awareness they need. If you're going to carry a firearm, I strongly recommend that you take some of those trainings as well. Not because I expect you to be out doing traffic stops, but because whether you like it or not, if you are legally licensed to carry a firearm and you react to a situation, that makes you a first responder. So you need to have some of that training and some of that situational awareness. And with what's going on with the Muslim minority, who are the folks that want to kill us all, and the fact that really, when you really stop and think about it, we have no idea how many of them are here right now. And I'm not saying that to try to make anybody afraid, but I'm just trying to be honest. After we get back from the break here in a couple minutes, I've got some stuff that I want to play that goes along the same ideas for the things that are happening in other countries that barely anybody's talking about because it's not politically correct. But we have actually hit the point where it's time for us to take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back with you here in just a couple minutes. Again, I am Rick Robinson. You're listening to America Off the Rails, and tonight we are discussing fighting terror and Islamophobia. Is there a difference? We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Steve Long of Liberty Unfiltered. If you're tired of hearing the same Republican and Democrat banner from the mainstream media, join me on Wednesday nights at 9 H Central as I crawl out of the cesspool of partisan politics and bring the fight for freedom against the advocates of big government to the masses.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
Hey, it's Cliff Davis from KLCI FM, the best radio station in the world. Coming soon. Stay tuned.
This is Misty, owner of Wax It Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
I need to get the producer to put together another arrangement of the bumper for that show, or for that song show. Duh. I always hate the fact that it starts having to be cut off right as the guitar solo really gets going, but, you know, the iHeart folks are like, 30 seconds or less on music or we're not going to play your show. Okay, fine, whatever. Sorry, a little cranky tonight, folks. It's kind of bleeding over from everywhere because, I mean, there's just so many things that are going on. And it's just one of those things where, you know, I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm kind of fed up with being told that we can't do the things that we know we need to do because we can't do that because we might be considered a racist if we do. I don't care if you call me racist. Because the simple fact of the matter is, I'm trying to protect myself, my family, and most of you by trying to make sure that we do the things that we ought to do. One of the things we need to do right now is secure our southern border. Period. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't care what bleeding heart scenario they try to give you. Our southern border needs to be secured. If you want to do real, true immigration reform, that is the first thing that needs to happen. And I don't mean this whole executive order amnesty thing that Obama pulled off that basically made him a liar yet again because, back in the day, oh no, I can't do this all on my own. I have to have the approval of Congress because I'm a president. I'm not an emperor. I can't do things on my own. Until he decides to do things on his own, which is how he's done most of his presidency. I honestly, I'm really, I hate to be one of these tinfoil hat wearing guys for a second, but does anybody really think he's just going to go away quietly? I really hope I'm wrong, but I'm starting to get one of those feelings. I really, really hope I'm wrong. But anyway, as promised, there are a few more clips that I want to play for the last part of the show today. Let me get them, make sure we've got them queued up here. We're going to go ahead and start off with one that happened I guess it's been a couple of months back now, in Australia. Just in case nobody's talked to you about it yet.
Australian authorities foil alleged Islamic State beheading plot. A senior member of the Islamic State in Australia was arrested during counter-terrorism raids launched by Australian police in Sydney and Brisbane on Thursday. The operation was conducted 48 hours after police reportedly intercepted a phone call made by Mohammed Ali Barayaleh, reportedly Australia's most senior member of the Islamic State, who ordered a terrorist act to be carried out on Australian soil. The plan reportedly included the random kidnapping of an Australian citizen from the street and their beheading, with footage of the act sent to and released by the Islamic State's propaganda department. More than 800 police raided over a dozen properties across 12 suburbs in Sydney and parts of Brisbane. A total of 15 people were arrested. Mohammed Ali Barayaleh and a 22-year-old Sydney man, Omarjan Azari, are accused of planning the terrorist acts. 9 of the 15 detainees were later released.
Get the Tomo News mobile phone app, uncut and uncensored. Search for Tomo News. Play, or see the links in the description of this video.
Okay, technical issues. Joys of Live Radio. Occasionally you get a little pop-up and suddenly you're playing someone else's commercial and you don't mean to. Anyway, so before the pop-up started, you heard the gist of that, basically talking about nationwide raids and hundreds arrested. And yay for Australia, why are we not doing that crap here? Just asking. It's because we have to be politically correct. It's because political correctness is all that matters. We can't hurt anybody's feelings. Come on, our entire country was built on hurt feelings. Let's be honest. I mean, why does it matter so much what other people think anymore? Because it didn't used to. And I'm not talking about the ways that it honestly does matter what people think. I'm talking about the things like this. Why can we not put the welfare of the general public above the hurt feelings of a few people? Why can we not, for example, put our love of bacon above the complaints of one person who says something about a billboard that has bacon on it, and suddenly the billboard is removed from a complaint from one person. Come on, how come they can get things done if one person complains? We've got an entire country that's been screaming about Obamacare since its inception, and we're still stuck with Obamacare. One Muslim talks about a billboard with bacon on it, and the billboard is taken down. We keep talking about how it's ultimately a religion of peace, but if we're afraid of every single one of them and we're secretly wondering if each one of them has a bomb vest on under their burqa, then how is that a religion of peace? How is it that one person can complain about a billboard in a city of hundreds of thousands of people, and that one person manages to get the entire billboard taken down or changed, if it's not because people are operating out of a spirit of fear? So you can tell me all day long that Islam is a religion of peace and that we shouldn't judge them, but we're doing so in reverse, because they get every little thing they want, because we're secretly afraid if they don't, they're going to blow us up. How is that fair? How can you possibly tell me that we're putting them on the same level that we put every other religious belief when you have hundreds of thousands of Christians that complain about stupid things that happen all day, every day? As far as we're concerned, nothing ever changes. One Muslim complains about a billboard with bacon on it. Oh my God, better take that down. So, is it really, as far as the public conception is concerned, a religion of peace? Or is it a religion where you're just wondering if they're going to be just crazy enough to blow you up? And is that why one of them can complain and everything can change? Just asking, because, we can't tell the difference anymore between trying to fight terror and being an Islamaphobe. But, good Lord, they're afraid of bacon on a billboard, and that can be changed. I mean, come on, what's the matter with bacon? Come on, I know good Muslims can't eat bacon, but have you ever tried bacon? I mean, like I said, why is it that, we tell everybody that Islam is a religion of peace? Our president says it over and over and over again. His mouthpiece, the secretary, the White House press secretary, says it over and over and over again. But again, one of them complains about a billboard and it gets changed. Thousands of Christians complain about the way they get treated. Nothing changes. So, I know I'm repeating myself here, but just asking, how can that be that the public perception of Islam as a religion of peace, when we all know the real reason that billboard probably got changed was because somebody was afraid they were going to walk into their corporate headquarters with a bomb vest on? So, let's just be real here. Again, how are we supposed to be able to tell the difference anymore between fighting terror and Islamophobia? As far as anything else, I've got another clip here. Again, taking it more on an international level, this is a recent incident in Mexico in regards to Hezbollah. And this is another thing really nobody's been talking about.
According to an article in Por Esto, a Mexican newspaper, suspected members of Hezbollah were found across the border in a vehicle with Belizean license plates. The news article says that on Thursday, August 28, police in Cancun, Mexico searched a Mercedes-Benz with Belize license plate. The vehicle was being driven by Haksam El Sayed, according to the paper, and 3 other passengers were in the vehicle. They all had Belizean passports, but the article says the persons, though residents of Belize, were actually members of the terrorist group Hezbollah. The article further states that Mexican authorities are aware that Belize is being used as a base for Hezbollah cells. In 2012, a fundraiser for Hezbollah Rafik Laboon was caught in Merida on parole violation. Laboon had secured within 48 hours a Belizean passport in the name of Wilhelm Dick, an infant of the Mennonite community who died shortly after birth. The article then goes into the latest passport scandal with the Belize Immigration Department and Elvin Penner. However, reports are that a Belizean with the same name as mentioned by the newspaper was indeed in Merida, but says he was not stopped by the police, not arrested, and was surprised to hear that he was being branded as a Hezbollah terrorist by Por Esto.
And you folks wonder why I want the border secured now. I've said it before, I will say it again, I will continue to say it for as long as I have breath. With a porous open border, we have countries to the south of us that have military bases that belong to people that want to kill us. There are military bases for Iran in several Central and South American countries. And I know it's not politically correct to say this, but if you remove the burqas and the head wraps and all of the typical Middle Eastern garb, and you put them in the same clothes that a lot of the Mexican and the Central American and the South American immigrants come across the border in, you stand someone of Middle Eastern descent next to someone of Spanish descent, because that's where most of the Middle or the South and Middle and Mexican folks come from, is Spain. And we are talking about folks of Middle Eastern descent, but you stand them next to one another, and you really can't tell that much of a difference. And let's face it, it's not like it's really that hard to falsify ID. So people can get Mexican documentation, I'm sure, probably about as easily as they can get ours. So again, I ask you this question. Why is it a bad thing to want to secure our borders? What is it they don't want us to know? I mean, I gotta tell you, at this point, folks, I'm half afraid the damage has already been done, but that doesn't mean you don't seal a leak, because that's what we're talking about here. Our entire nation might as well be a boat. Right now, we have holes all through the side of the boat, and we are taking on water faster than we can pump it out, because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of people who pour across our border every month. We have so many people coming across, they can't keep up with it anymore. And the simple, straightforward truth of the matter is, the media is trying to make it sound like Obama is the most deporting president in history. And if you really look at the numbers, 3 out of every 100 illegal aliens risk deportation. 3. 97% of the people that sneak into this country illegally are never even approached about being here illegally. 3 out of 100. Let that sink in with some of the numbers that you can find that talk about the number of folks that we have coming across our border right now. Let that really, truthfully, and honestly sink in just for a minute. Because I gotta tell you, that terrifies me. When we have all of these people that are talking about, well, we need to make these changes because so many of these people are being deported and they're being separated from their families, and it's terrible and it's horrible because they have children that were born here. I'm telling you right now, this whole anchor baby concept, yeah, that crap needs to go. Do you realize how many people, and this is another reason why our borders need to be better regulated. Do you realize how many people are sneaking over here from places like China to make sure that they have their children here, so that at some point, even if they run the risk of being deported, they can ship their children right back over here because legally they have dual citizenship? That should only be afforded to people that do the right thing and come across legally. And I'm not saying that there aren't some things that need to be changed. I've said this before. With technology the way it is, we can streamline our immigration processes. There's no reason we can't, because I guarantee you they're still using paper in a lot of places where they could be using electronics. They're not making full access and full availability and better use of all of the surveillance equipment that we have and the facial recognition software that we have that would allow them to be able to tell who's who as they're coming across the border. So, I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying that we have to have people manning every single checkpoint. What I am saying is we need to have the ability to monitor who the heck is coming across the border so that we can intercept those that we know want to do bad things. And with technology the way it is today, there's no reason we can't have it both ways. We should be able to keep our border more secure for our safety and allow more people to actually come into this country legally, so we're not continuing to reward those who break the law. I mean, think about that. That's parenting 101, and we do it as a nation all day long, all day, every day, sun up to sundown. We reward bad behavior. All day long, sun up to sundown, we reward bad behavior. It's one of the first things you're taught as a parent if you ever bother to pick up a book about it or talk even to your own parents about raising children, because a lot of times what you'll find is there isn't a handbook that comes with parenting. Lord knows why, because there ought to be. But there isn't a handbook that comes with parenting, so one of the first things you find out is eventually at some point you have to realize that you cannot constantly reward bad behavior. Because what happens when you reward the bad behavior is you continue to elicit bad behavior. So every time we as a nation talk about amnesty and we talk about immigration reform and we say we're going to do all of this stuff for the people that are already here, all we're doing is encouraging more people to make that run for the border. And I understand that Obama wants to tell you that he's done all of these things to make sure that doesn't happen. And how many other things has that man been full of crap on? There's a pretty good one right in the beginning of my intro for the show. Again, want to give a big shout out to Dirty Uncles for that intro, by the way. But, yeah, if you like your healthcare plan, you can keep your healthcare plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Everything that man has touched has turned to crap. Plain and simple. And you know, I gotta say something. And you know, I almost feel okay with saying it now, because I am actually on a directory now that lists me along with Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh, and I think it's about 100 to 150 others, maybe more, maybe less. I actually hadn't had a chance to see the full publication yet. But that being said, on the drive home, of course, I caught a few minutes of Hannity. You know, even I like to listen to talk radio. Let's face it, I'm a political junkie. Why else would I do this? One of the folks that was on Sean's show today actually called in and basically called him a sycophant for the Republican Party. Like Sean or hate Sean, I have to tell you, he's not one of the party first kind of guys. He'll be the first one to tell you that he's registered conservative, and that as far as he's concerned, the mainstream Republicans are basically Democrat light. For the most part, I agree with a lot of what he says. I don't necessarily like some of the ways that he says it, but I do agree with what he says. Now, one of the things that he pointed out, and one of the things that I've been pointing out, because everybody's talking about these low unemployment numbers, which I'm sorry, if you go and you look at the actual data, numbers are a lot worse than they appear, kind of like that little thing in your mirror, that, you know, when you look in your side view mirrors and it says objects in this mirror are closer than appear. Things in this report suck a lot worse than they appear. Let's just be honest, because they're working the numbers. And it's going to continue. I don't care which side of the aisle has power at this point, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. We basically have a bunch of or how did I put that the other day? I found, oh yeah, it was Republicrats. That was the one that made sense. Because it was either Dempublicans or Republicrats, and I just kind of like Republicrats, mainly because it ends in rats. And either way, that's what I think both parties are at this point. Because I am conservative, and I will tell you that I'm conservative, but I've also been getting a little bit of flack from some more conservative folks, mainly because of my decision as the programming director here at Talk to air more of a centrist show like Finding Common Ground, and also a new show that's coming, Opinion Nation News. I am also a freedom guy. That includes freedom of speech. That means I'm going to give anybody that I think has something decent to say a platform, and then let the market decide what shows get to stick. And for everybody who just heard liberal and started freaking out, these are not your normal socialism is good, everything else is bad kind of liberals. Dave, I've known for years. He's more of a JFK-style liberal. Bryce, I've had very little interaction with, but through his Twitter feed, it looks like he had the same idea we had with Finding Common Ground, which is trying to show people that you can take things from both sides of the aisle and realize that we have a lot more in common with each other than we do these idiots in D.C. I still firmly stand with that, because I honestly think if we get rid of the outliers and we focus on the folks in the middle, we have a lot more in common with each other than we do with these idiots in D.C. And that doesn't mean we're always going to agree. It doesn't mean there aren't going to be some issues where I'm going to be uber super conservative and I'm going to have a hard line and a hard nose about it. A lot like a lot of libertarian friends I have when they start talking about how they feel about open borders. Which, I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, the concept of open borders has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of, especially with a nation this large. I'm not saying that there probably isn't some way that we could make it work, but I'm saying I'm not comfortable with even making the attempt. Because of the fact that, I'm sorry, if we are not as a nation allowed to regulate our borders in the way that we see fit, then we don't deserve to be a nation. Every other country in the world gets to regulate their borders. I'm not asking for a stockade fence 20,000 feet tall. I'm asking for a border that is manned and posted so that we can keep track of who's coming in and who's going out, so that we can keep track and try to keep up with all of these people that are killing themselves to get across the border and paying these exorbitant fees to the coyotes. That's the part of this nobody wants to talk about. With the money that these people are paying to sneak into the country, I bet you it would almost be cheaper to not pay those people to sneak into the country. But it's because our immigration system is so expensive and it just takes so long. And we should feel pity on all of these people trying to come here. Because after all, our ancestors were immigrants too. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There was a time when not very good things happened in this country. I happen to have a Native American ancestry myself. And I know some of the very bad things that happened. And some of the very bad things that happened is because the Native Americans had none of the concepts that we had. They didn't think about borders and owning the land. They thought about being one with nature. And a lot of them were nomadic in nature. That's where things like teepees came from, because they moved. And they didn't stay in one place for very long, and because they followed the buffalo herds. So they didn't have borders, and they didn't have immigration policies, and they were pretty much savages to a point as far as the English were concerned and everybody else that came here. So they were wiped out. And if we keep trying to adopt this sunshine, roses, and lollipops idea that everybody just needs to find a way to go along to get along, eventually we're going to be wiped out too. Whether it's the Muslim extremists or whatever next biggest, baddest bully on the block figures out a way to sneak across our borders, we are going to be wiped out too. I don't know about you, but one of the reasons why I started all of these projects and all of these things that I've been working on for the past several years was to try to find a way to make sure that I did, even if it was in a small part, even if I couldn't get it to go anywhere, which thank God it is, and sometimes again it's happening in spite of me, not because of me. I'm not trying to take any of the credit for this, because this was an idea that I had, but I have a great team of people with me. And I have a lot of folks behind me, and I have a lot of folks working with me, and I have a lot of folks now that I'm starting to network with, and we're pushing together, because I don't know about you guys, but I started all of this because I have children, and I don't want to leave them the world the way I see it now. I don't want to have my last breath on this planet to be an apology to my children because of the shape the world was in on the day that I drew my last breath. I can't even fathom that concept. But if we keep letting this nation go in the direction that it's going, I don't care. That's exactly what's going to happen. We have a president who has racked up the debt of every single president before him in 1.5 terms. Nobody's talking about that. Why is that? We have a president who has the highest unemployment rate, if you look at the natural numbers, since the Great Depression. Nobody's talking about that. We have gas prices that are now plummeting. Everybody wants to say it's because of the nice new supply that we have. But if you listen to a lot of folks that are rumbling behind the scenes, a lot of it's because the world economy is starting to slow down again, and it's because demand is dropping. So yes, there is a greater supply because of all of the technology that we've been able to bring onto the scenes and all of the drilling that we've done in spite of Obama, not because of him. There is also the fact that OPEC declared war on us during our Thanksgiving and basically decided they were going to pull the floor out from underneath the oil prices because they considered it a 3-for-1, because now they're hurting the Iranians, they're hurting the Russians, and if the prices keep dropping, eventually they're going to hurt us. These things are all tied together because these are all things nobody's talking about. We have Middle Eastern countries that still have us by the short hairs because we're not allowed to drill where we need to drill. And that's brought about by the same politically correct BS that has caused us to now not be able to tell the difference between fighting terror and being an Islamaphobe. I mean, you've heard it tonight, folks. We have extremists in our own country. We know this because of the protesters that I just let you hear about in Boston. A few years back, we had a terror attack in Boston. They have the same situations going on in Australia, which, trust me, if they can pull that stuff off in Australia, that's pretty hard. That is not an easy country to get into, especially compared to us. Then we have the fact that we have at least one report of a car being driven by a group of folks from Hezbollah being found in Mexico. So, yeah, again, tell me why we can't secure our borders. Mr. McCain, if you're listening, which, you know, who knows, this show keeps growing, eventually at some point you might be, why didn't you finish the fence? You know, the one that you ran on, that you told everybody in Arizona, vote for me and I'll finish the fence. They voted for you, you didn't finish the fence. And people wonder why I call everybody the Republicrats. That's why when people ask me what I am anymore, if I'm Republican or Democrat, all I tell them is conservative, because I am a conservative. Conservatism works when it's tried. It doesn't mean that it's the right answer for everything, but it will fix 80 to 85% of the problems in this country if it's tried. The other 15%, as far as I'm concerned, those are social issues, and those should be being dealt with in the home. Plain and simple. Because if they were being dealt with in the home, they wouldn't need to be being dealt with in a public forum. That's how I feel about it. That's been my stance from day one. And there are some folks that want to yank my conservative card because of it. I can tell you for 1,000% certainty that I'm conservative because I am anti-abortion. That doesn't mean that I think that the belief that I am anti-abortion should be forced onto anyone else. That should be something that is dealt with in your home. That doesn't make me not conservative. It means I am human enough to realize that I can't always hold everybody else to my standards. That's not what my belief system has brought me up to do. That's not what my family has brought me up to do. So I'm not going to be the one that looks at everybody and says, oh, I'm sorry, you have to do things exactly my way 99.99999% of the time, or I'm going to tell you that you're not conservative enough for me. I get enough of that from libertarian friends of mine who basically, even though we agree on about 80% of things, because of that 20% that we don't agree on, I'm not cool enough to hang around with a lot of them. Some of you are listening right now and think I'm talking about you, so calm down, because I'm not. The ones that I'm talking about know who they are. Alright, so that's actually going to do it for this episode of America Off the Rails, folks. I will be back with you tomorrow night while we probably continue to talk about the difference between fighting terror and Islamophobia. Also, of course, we will have some more information, hopefully, about the continuing developments with the situation in Paris. Also, we'll probably do a follow-up on the recent hacking of the CENTCOM Twitter feed. And don't forget, not this week, but next week. I think it's next week. Yeah, next Thursday. The folks from Vigilant Liberty, Voices of Global Freedom Radio. Sorry, at this point, we have so many different folks that are actually feeding into the station right now, it's even getting harder for me to keep track. Voices of Global Freedom Radio regularly airs here every Saturday from 4 to 6 Central, 2 to 4 Western, or Pacific, sorry. Western. Pardon me. And also, they will be airing a primetime episode with us every Friday, starting at 7 our time. So primetime drive for them, so 5 to 7. Later primetime drive, 5 to 6:30ish. Later primetime drive for us, about 7 to 8:30. And then, of course, this Saturday I will actually be appearing there for, I think it's the last half hour of their show. They've invited me to come hang out with them for the last half hour. And then, of course, we will have them on the America Off the Rails show once I'm able to track down this whole not able to have callers thing and sound quality issue that we repeatedly seem to be having. Although so far I think this show, sound quality, I hope has been better. I'll find out in a moment, of course. If it has any issues, I'll definitely correct them and re-upload the audio. But anyway, doesn't appear, because I haven't heard from Denny yet, that we will be doing Wake Up America this evening. So we will probably let this show run again in its entirety, and then I will have the Right War with Liz and Taylor ready to go at straight up 8 o'clock. So as soon as this show finishes, it will drop straight into that one. And then, of course, at 9, or in this case, a little bit after, it'll roll into the Liz Harrison show. And then we'll go into the late night crew. You guys have a great night. Thanks for tuning in with us. All of you guys that listen on a regular basis, you are one of the reasons why I made the publication that I just made, so I will be forever grateful. Again, if you have reached us now for the first time, you might be listening through Spreaker, you might be listening through TuneIn, you might be listening through iHeart, or through the America Off the Rails app in the market, or through K98Talk.com. No matter how you found us, thank you, welcome. We'll be here 6 days a week for your conservative listening pleasure or displeasure. If you like the show, tell your friends. And to steal a line from Grouchy, if you have friends that like the show, you might want to find better friends. Speaking of, he'll be live with us again Thursday night. Again, Politabunny will not be airing with us this week, but I do believe we're going to be able to air it again starting next week. And then tomorrow night, we have the first run episode for us of According to Me with Jason DeWilkins, and also the Liberty Unfiltered show. So again, tomorrow night, just to give you a brief description of the evening lineup, we will have myself, then we will do According to Me, and then we will run into Liberty Unfiltered, and then we will have Open Eyes with Ira through from L&M Radio, and then we in the night with their flagship program, Late Night in the Midlands, which is also produced and hosted by the mastermind over there, Michael Vera, and that will run from midnight to 3. So we'll have programming for you. First runs for us from 6 in the evening afternoon through 3 o'clock the following morning, and then of course don't forget to start your day off tomorrow morning with Denny C, host of the Family Factor, with you from about 5 to 6. If you are interested and you do have a show that you think would fit the K98 Talk lineup, you are more than welcome to hit me up with an email. We are looking for some morning shows. It honestly doesn't matter if you record it or you do it live, whether it's daytime, nighttime. We honestly really don't care about that. We're just looking for some stuff to fill up the time slots, because we do have quite a few morning spots still available. If you have access to something like Sam Broadcaster, or there's a few other programs out there, we can actually, if you hit me up via email, we can let you know exactly how to get in, so that way if you do want to do a live show during the day, we prefer that you at least send us a demo first, or give us a link to some work that you've already done, so we can at least have a good idea of what it is that you've put together. You can reach me at ricky@thesparkradionetwork.com, and again, I am the programming director here at K98 Talk, so we are always looking for new hosts to put into the lineup. Also, we have plenty of space over on the Spark Radio Network that we haven't filled up either, and my eventual plan is to use the Spark Radio Network to feed into K98 Talk, as we have hosts that I'm sure eventually will be coming and going, because, you know, not everybody stays on the same station forever, as much as I would like to basically kidnap everybody that I like and force them to play on my station. I can't necessarily do that. Alright, folks, we're out for the night. Again, I am Rick Robinson. This has been America Off the Rails, and I will be back with you tomorrow night, and then again with you Thursday night, then Friday night, and then Saturday morning for both Finding Common Ground. Then we'll have the premiere of Opinion Nation with Bryce Robbins, and then we will be right into the extended Saturday show for America Off the Rails. You guys have a great night, and take care.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level, or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.